The call comes in just before dawn on February the 16th, 2026. A man's voice breaks through the dispatcher's calm questions. He sounds frantic, breathless, overwhelmed. He says someone broke into his house in Tip City, Ohio. He says his wife has been shot. He says she is not breathing, and his name is Caleb Flynn. He tells the dispatcher he found her on the floor. He says there was a burglary. He says he doesn't understand what happened. The line remains open long enough to capture something rather unsettling. Not chaos and not a struggle, not the sound of an intruder fleeing, but silence. A heavy, unnatural stillness. And inside the home lies 37-year-old Ashley Flynn. She was a mother, a volleyball coach, a substitute teacher, a woman described by family as warm and devoted. Upstairs, their two daughters are inside the house, and within minutes, officers arrive. They find Ashley fatally shot. They secure the scene, and almost immediately, something does not feel right. At first glance, it appears to be a home invasion, but seasoned investigators are trained to read not just what is present, but what is absent. There are no clear signs of forced entry, no obvious trail of disturbance, no evidence of a struggle consistent with a violent burglary gone wrong. And yet, a woman is dead. And the husband was once a worship pastor, a former contestant on American Idol, a man who had once stood before judges and cameras chasing his dream. Now he stands in his living room telling police someone else did this. And 3 days later, that narrative collapses. Because on February the 19th, 2026, Caleb Flynn is arrested and charged with murder, felonious assault, and tampering with evidence. Oh, of course, he pleads not guilty, and a bond is set at $2 million. In court, he says he only wants to take care of his daughters. He insists he is not a risk. But you see, investigators believe the scene was staged. And the question that begins to haunt this quiet Ohio community is not just what happened, but why. For February 16th, Caleb Flynn's public life was built on faith and music. And in 2013, he auditioned for American Idol during season 12. But he did not advance to the final televised rounds. But he was known locally for his amazing musical talent. He worked as a worship pastor. He led the church in hymns and songs. He stood under lights with a microphone in hand and spoke about faith, hope, even redemption. And to a congregation, that role carries trust. To a community, it carries moral weight. Later, he transitioned into business and sales roles, but the identity of preacher and performer followed him wherever he went. And Ashley Flynn, meanwhile, was described by friends as grounded and active in her children's lives. She coached volleyball, she worked in the local schools, and she built routines that revolved around her family. And on the surface, nothing publicly suggested any violence. Psychological terror does not always announce itself with visible cracks. Sometimes it exists in private spaces, behind routine, inside quiet arguments that never make it to neighbors' ears. Authorities have not publicly released a motive yet. That absence creates its own tension, because when there is no clear explanation, the mind searches for one, and the silence grows heavier. Investigators process the home very carefully. They analyze entry points, they evaluate ballistic evidence, and they reconstruct timelines. They compare the physical evidence to the story told in that 911 call. Law enforcement later states they believe the burglary was staged. That conclusion changes everything. A staged crime scene is not impulsive chaos. What it does is imply thought, deliberation, and an attempt to redirect suspicion. And the psychological weight of that allegation is enormous. And if true, it suggests the most terrifying element of all: proximity. Not a stranger in the night, but someone inside the home, someone who was trusted, someone who shared the same bed, the same dinner table, and the same life. Now in court, Caleb Flynn appears emotional. Tells the judge he wants to care for his daughters, and he says he is not a risk. Bond is set at $2 million. He pleads not guilty, and legally that matters, because at this stage, these are not charges, not a conviction. Presumption of innocence remains. But you see, outside the courtroom, the emotional verdict in the community is more complicated. Church members grapple with shock. Friends of Ashley grapple with grief. Two daughters grapple with a reality no child should ever have to understand. In Tip City, Ohio, comes another small American town carrying a headline, "Never Ever Wanted." In criminal psychology, staging a crime scene is often associated with an attempt to mislead investigators. It also can indicate panic. It can also indicate calculation. And it can indicate fear of consequences. What makes cases like this psychologically disturbing is not spectacle. It's contrast. A man associated with worship music and faith. A home associated with children and a routine. And a call asking for help. And beneath it all, a fatal gunshot. There is something uniquely unsettling about violence that interrupts ordinary life without warning. No prolonged public spiral, no obvious outward collapse. Just one morning, and everything is permanently divided into before and after. Ashley Flynn's life cannot and will not be reduced to just a headline. Remember, she was a coach, a teacher, and most of all, she was a mother. Those roles continue through memory, through stories told by those who loved her. The legal process will move forward. Evidence will be presented. And, of course, arguments will be made. A jury if it comes to that, we'll weigh facts carefully. But for now, what remains is silence. The silence after the hymn, and the silence after the sirens. The silence inside a house that once held ordinary noise. And the unsettling truth is sometimes the most terrifying thing is not what breaks through the door, but what was already inside.